The videos off.
Hello and welcome everyone to this PrintWeek and Packaging webinar in association with DIC. Our focus is the power of packaging and the challenges for the industry to shift to sustainable packaging. There's so much uncertainty in the Indian market about what is recyclable, biodegradable, and compostable. During the next 66 minutes, our experts will share their wisdom and the initiatives by the private sectors and government organizations. Many of you will have several questions on your mind about this topic. Please feel free to share them on the questions option on your screen, and I will hope to get answers from our panelists at the end of the session. Today, the global packaging industry worth over 1.17 all the cards in the deck, but this
Yes, you can continue now.
To hear today from a panel of packaging pundits. To start off the proceedings, let me invite Amit Saurkar, Head Packaging Development, MTR Foods, to share the brand's perspective on the topic. An experienced packaging professional, Amit is an alumnus of Indian Institute of Packaging and in his current role handles packaging innovation, functional innovation, and futuristic innovation among other areas. Prior to MTR, Amit served Kraft Heinz for 5 years and has worked on brands like Complan, Glucon-D, Nycil, and Heinz tomato ketchup. His other stints include 4 years at ITC working on brands like Fiamma, Vivell, and superior range of products. Over to you, Amit Saurkar.
Thank you very much, Sriram, for the introduction. Good afternoon to one and all distinguished panelists and my dear fellow packaging fraternity. I would like to take this opportunity to say thanks to organizers PrintWeek and DIC for providing this opportunity to share my views. Kindly note, all expressed views are my personal views. So the today's topic is industry challenges to shift to sustainable packaging. So in terms of sustainability at MTR as a company, as all of you know, MTR is a sister concern of Norway-based Orkla group, and we are aligned with the Orkla sustainability mandates, and we are working towards those mandates, and it includes a complete gamut of sustainability array in terms of nutrition and wellness. So here we are approaching this nutrition and wellness in terms of reducing the salt, sugar, and fats from our product portfolio, as well as safe products. It in terms of all operation sites at MTR, we are green BRC certified. Then the sustainable sourcing, it's a very key element in terms of the procurement of raw materials as well as the packaging materials, as well as we are aiming as a company to have the packaging materials, whatever we are using, are recyclable or made out of recycled plastics. Along with this, we have environmental engagement where in our plants we are working on the solar energy as a concept, as well as a key focus area, as well as we are exploring innovations linked to circular economy. And next is on the care for people and society. So here also we act as a responsible employer in terms of caring our people and as well as the Mother Earth. So at MTR, being we are part of the Orkla group, we have a structured thought process in terms of how to approach sustainable packaging development. We have a sustainable packaging development process per se designed in at our company, as well as we approach in a five-way model: rethink, reduce, replace, recycle, and reuse. And heavily from a few years, we are working on the plastic footprint reduction, basically optimizing the sizes of the packages wherever applicable possible, as well as we are working towards uh, replacing the three-layer conventional PET, MedPET poly structure with the recyclable structures, which are easy for recycling, as well as we are aiming, as well as globally also we are aiming to have improved on-pack communications, which help consumer to convince that this particular package is environmental friendly. So just I would like to touch upon the present trends in the industry in terms of sustainability point of view. A lot of work is happening on the monomaterial films, as well as monomaterial laminate structures made out of monomaterials, as well as polymers of similar family materials or the polymers of similar family is being explored all across the different brands as well as the converters. Polyethylene as a preferred choice due to good recyclability rate as well as a recovery rate. Within poly, there are explorations are going in terms of multi-layer polyethylene as well as oriented polyethylene, barrier polyethylene, metallized polyethylene, uh, transparent barrier films also being explored as a replacement for metallized PET films. A lot of trials and evaluations, explorations are going in India as well as globally. Barrier monostructures, as I said, monolayer poly, barrier monolayer polys or co-extruded polys being also explored compared to the conventional flexible laminates. Then post-consumer recyclable resins also is heavily being explored, as well as some of the brand owners already launch some of their portfolio products into recyclable PET containers, as well as prioritization of a recycling compatible materials. It is being taken by on a serious note by a lot of brands in India as well as abroad. And as I said, improved on-pack communication. Basically, it is a trend which is very prevalent in other part of the world, as well as it is slowly catching up in India. So industry challenges to shift to sustainable packaging, which is the topic of discussion today. And uh, there are many challenges, but I could able to summarize or collate four key things in terms of cost, product safety, investment on packaging lines, and compromise on aesthetics. But these are all challenges which were there in the industry from few years, but there are a lot of technological advancements happening all over the world as well as in India, and that is actually helping in terms of reducing these challenges. So in terms of how to overcome these challenges, collaboration is the key in terms of collaboration within the brand owners, the converter, as well as the converter's converter is very crucial in terms of for implementing any recyclable structure in the market. So collaboration is the key, as well as I said, there is I would like to quote an example of liquor industry where heavily metallized PET being used for lamination purpose. Now the technology has evolved to an extent that you can have spot cast and cure effect, as well as the cold foiling and certain areas, and actually it is not compromising yet. Actually it is giving a similar effects what you used to get in a normal complete metallized PET cartons. Uh, as well as the original equipment manufacturers, what you call OEMs, where a lot of R&D is happening on the machine manufacturers, FFS machine manufacturers, and whatever the new machines they are building it with change parts which are suitable and on which the recyclable laminates like poly or polymers of similar family can be efficiently run. So the technology has evolved, and according to me, I personally feel that India is gearing up and is ready to accept sustainable packaging as well as laminate structures to implement into the industry. So that's all from my side in terms of putting the perspective on the challenges to shift to sustainable packaging. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Amit Saurkar. I'm sure the industry will consider the thoughts you have expressed here. On that note, we are joined by Amit Banga, Managing Director of SBP, and Amit Shah, Joint President and Chief Marketing Officer for Flexible Packaging Business at Uflex, to share their thoughts on the challenges of producing sustainable packaging and how their respective companies overcome it. Let me first invite Amit Banga to share his thoughts. Co-founder of SB Packaging, one of the leading packaging companies of India, with a share of over 50% in the hygiene industry, he has been a strong advocate of developing recyclable solutions in the packaging space and has been instrumental in building the company values around this cause. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sriram. Can everybody hear me well?
Yeah, Amit, you're loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, first of all, I must thank you, Sriram, for the introduction, Mr. Noel Dakana, and the other participants in this webinar. And I think a special thanks to DIC and PrintWeek for helping organize this webinar. So it's good to connect with everybody. Today it's a nice warm day here in Delhi. I think the summers are approaching, so we are all getting ready for a tough summers this year. So I'd like to, so I'm very passionate about sustainability. Business apart, I have compromised on a lot of business which is not sustainable. So at the cost of profit, I've gone in a different direction so that we can pursue sustainability in a very big way. We have also recently won the India Star Award, and then after that the Asia Star Award for a recyclable pack that we have made. It's a stand-up pouch with zipper, and there's a stand-up pouch with spout as well. And these pouches are 100% made out of polyethylene, even the spout, and the second pouch, even the zipper. And they have got a barrier, oxygen barrier also. So polyethylene has a natural barrier, but this pouch has oxygen barrier coatings. So we can get up to 1 OTR and 1 MBTR in this pouch. So with this, I'd like to just take you to a small presentation I have, and I'd like to share the screen. Okay. So the mission of our company is to improve the environment we live in by making plastics eco-friendly through innovative packaging solutions. So my role in the company is all about innovative packaging solutions, and I'm totally out of the operations of the company. So now I'd like to give my views about sustainability, how I see sustainability around the world, the global sustainability scenario, and what the brand owners are doing. So we have packaging waste, which has got a very bad name in the overall waste in the world. The packaging waste is the fastest growing, and now more than 50% of the waste is packaging waste. This is also bringing a bad name to the plastics, as we all know. Most of this waste is not getting recycled as of now. Internationally, I think the recycling rate in the developed countries is very high, but in India, it's very, very low. I think Europe has been quite forward and showing a leadership, playing a leadership role in sustainability, especially in the packaging sector. In 2018, there was a resolution that by 2030, all the packaging will be made recyclable. And thereafter, a few months back, there has been a tax which is being implemented from January 2021 of 800 euros per ton on all the non-recycled waste on the member countries. This is going to encourage the recycling economy in Europe, and it is going to push the recycling infrastructure, and a lot of investment will go into that. And all companies and countries alike would be pushed into using more and more recyclable packaging. This is a slide on the Global Waste Management Outlook by the United Nations Environment Program, which shows that it's better to prevent the waste from happening. And if we have the packaging waste in the context of packaging, I would say that we should reuse the packaging as much as we can, or the packaging should be recyclable. When we say recyclable, it means a circular loop, and it does not mean downcycling. A quick look at the sustainability goals of global consumer good companies. There is not any global company or large Indian brand owner who does not have a sustainability goal. You can go to the website and they'll have a sustainability page and their sustainability goals all displayed very clearly. So in India, our government has also been in action. Mr. Modi, Mr. Javadekar, the Environment Minister, they have been vociferously advocating sustainability, and they have the idea that plastics are not bad, and the plastics, but they should be used responsibly. And some of the laws that are recently being made to promote recycling, especially recent one from the Maharashtra government. We have seen that the Maharashtra government also has said that 20% of the non-food packaging should be made out of recycled resin. Now that's a very strong step forward, and it is an indication to all the brand owners of the sign of the times to come. The government has also talked about increasing the thickness to minimum 50 microns so that the rack pickers can pick up. So there are a lot of laws being made around plastics. I won't go into detail, but because this is a very short presentation and a quick this thing. So this is about the 50 micron thing. Now the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. So what is the problem? The problem today is that the packaging waste is not getting recycled. Why is it not getting recycled? The packaging producer produces the packaging. It goes to the brand owner, to the market, to the consumer. But after the consumer, there is no collection of waste. There is no segregation of waste, and therefore there is no recycling of waste. Now, why is that happening? That's because the waste is not economically viable to collect, to segregate, and to recycle, because it is made out of different plastics which cannot be recycled. So what is the solution? The solution is that if the waste is of monopolymer, it will be so valuable that the collection and segregation infrastructure will develop to collect the waste and segregate the waste automatically, because there is money to be made. It will not need any external support from the government or the industry. That's the only way to have a circular economy, by having packaging which is made out of monopolymer. So I'll just quickly go on to the difference between multipolymer and monopolymer, as we all know, is that a monopolymer packaging is made out of one single polymer compared to multipolymer packaging, which is made out of different polymers. Most of the food packaging today is made out of polyester mixed with BOPP or with PE, at least 2 or 3 different materials, which is known as multi-layer packaging. And here, it's very difficult to recycle. You only have to either downcycle or it has to go into pyrolysis or road construction, which is end of life. That is not called recycling. By the definition of recycling, it means it has to be a circular economy. It has to be a closed loop going back into the primary packaging that you produce. So, so we can all see that monopolymer, because of the value of the waste, is the only way that it is a solution for having a circular economy. The valuable waste can be collected and segregated, and it can be sold to the recyclers, and the recyclers will willingly produce. So now, with the recent law from Maharashtra Pollution Control Board, it is going to be I think, a big step forward for the country, that it is going to promote recycling, and we will be eventually, in the next few years, we will be queuing up to recyclers to buy the recycled resin. And I think this is the sign of the times. Anybody who has got an idea about investment in India in a new sector, recycling is the place to go to, I think, and that is the way forward. So why monolayer packaging? The life cycle of a monolayer packaging is very high. So you have multiple recycles. You can, so for example, as Amit Saurkar also mentioned, polyethylene is one of the most versatile polymers, because it has multiple recycles. And if you use 20% recycled resin in your primary packaging, that goes back into the consumer, back to the consumer in the market. It can be collected again and again, and the 20% recycled resin can still be continued to use endlessly, and we can have a very sustainable system. As compared to multi-layer packaging, there is no recycling. For example, a PET plus PE, it has to be end of life, which means in energy recovery, pyrolysis, or road construction. There is no real recycling. So therefore, the only way to go is monomaterial packaging to have a circular economy. And every single pack should have this logo, so that the collection people can identify very clearly that what material this is. Today, I'll be proud to say that in India, 80 to 90% of polyester bottles, PET bottles, are getting recycled, as compared to 50 to 60% in Europe and US, because they are very, very valuable. The infrastructure has been established in India, and you throw a bottle anywhere, within half an hour, 1 hour, a rag picker will pick it up. Or there is a lot of investment that is going into the collection system. You have these reverse vending machines, which have been put in public places, where you can put a PET bottle, it will get crushed, baled, and then it is collected, and it goes straight to the recycler. So this system, this infrastructure has already started developing in India, and almost 80 to 90% PET bottles are getting recycled. So the way forward is that now India should be making more and more laws which will promote monopolymer packaging, and the brand owners will also be going towards monopolymer packaging. So I'd like to end my first part of the presentation saying that packaging let's make packaging a solution and not a problem for the world, and not so that we don't bring a bad name to packaging. A little bit about our company. We are located in the Delhi NCR, and we are one of the most environment-friendly packaging companies in the world. I say that, I take that claim because 90% of the packaging material that we make is currently monopolymer, and therefore fully recyclable. And the latest thing is that we've put up our own recycling plant, and we are offering film which has 20% or up to 50% recycled resin in that film. So anybody who wants to try out and achieve their sustainability goals is most welcome to collaborate with us. So we are associated with a lot of food and hygiene brands. We have many other solutions for reducing carbon footprints. So this is a range of the 100% recyclable bags and pouches that we can do. Of course, roll form is definitely possible. We have water-based oxygen barrier coatings so that they can reduce the OTR up to a level of 1 and replace polyester. So this is a little bit about our how we do the recycled resin in-house, and we put it in the non-contact layer. So because it's an in-house post-industrial recycling as of now, we can claim that it's food grade quality because it is hygienically collected from within our shop floor and used in another hall for recycling. So I can claim that it's food grade quality, though we can use it in the non-contact layer and it won't matter. So this is the pouch for which we have received an India Star Award, and recently, so this is slightly a older presentation. Our Asia Star Award also came in a week back. So we got the Asia Star Award for this pouch as well. And the applications are tremendous here. We can share more with anyone if they contact me separately. The same pouch with a zipper. So that's it. That's the end of my presentation. I'm sorry if I took a little longer, but please do hand over back to the compare. Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, Amit,
Sorry.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Amit Banga. Let me quickly hand it over to Amit Shah to tell us about his company's sustainability journey. An industry veteran with more than 26 years of domestic and international experience, his expertise is in B2B marketing and sales, both in domestic as well as international markets. Product development and launch and turning around of businesses are his other areas of expertise. He started his career in Sharp Industries and was recently with ITC, where he spent almost a decade heading sales as a SBU head. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Selvam. Thank you all the participants, the panelists, and thank you, Mr. Banga, for the lovely presentation, and Saurkar before that. Well, my presentation is not about Uflex. I think the content was very clearly communicated to us that industry challenges to shift to sustainable packaging, and is India ready to shift? I think as a brand owner, Mr. Saurkar mentioned, I think I would, as a partner in the packaging fraternity, I would like to say, Tathastu, your wish is what we will deliver to. Right? And to that, I think we must step back and try and reflect what has transpired all over these years and where we are today. I think first and foremost, I mean, although I have had a long stint in the paperboard packaging industry, I think my conversation today will be more on the flexible packaging industry. I think what has been the biggest achievement of flexible packaging, right? So as I would define it, and these are purely my views, we have enabled delivery of consumer products to the entire spectrum of consumers across these socio-economic strata of the society and nation, and at the same time ensuring that the packaged product retains the required freshness. So that is what we have done. Now, given the context, I thought let's step back and try and understand, this word sustainable packaging, right? So what I did is that I checked up on our friend, philosopher and guide, Wikipedia, right? So what does it have to say? It says, is the development and use of packaging which results in improved sustainability. And the two areas it talks about is reducing environmental impact and the ecological footprint, right? So therefore, if you see the way the flexible packaging industry has evolved over the years, right? So the evolution of concept of the 3 Rs, as you would call it, and Amit also added a couple of more to that. So we'll stick to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Now, Mr. Banga did mention in his presentation that all the brand owners have evolved their own interpretation of sustainable packaging and are implementing the same. And my view is that all flexible packaging is recyclable. There was a lot of views expressed about monomaterials. Well, I think even everyone is entitled to their views, but my view is that all flexible packaging is recyclable. Let's go back to the evolution of packaging and flexible packaging and see, in 1995s, there was more intent of source reduction. They were down gauging, reduction in material usage. Manufacturing processes became more efficient. You had lesser wastages. Then sometime in the mid 2000s, you had source substitution, and then monomaterials is what we all talk about. But having said this, has all of this actually had any tangible impact on the environment or the challenges that we are facing? Right? And I think as a community of let's say brand owners, packaging manufacturers, right, and other stakeholders, I think the question is that how is the problem being addressed? And to my mind, I think the biggest challenge we have as of today is, of course, collection of post-consumer waste. Right? And the fact remains that even if you have monomaterial used in every format of flexible packaging, this is one single challenge which I don't think we'll be able to overcome. What are we as a market? I think the way flexible packaging has enabled products or consumer products to reach to a wider audience is basically to make it affordable at the lower price points. Now, with that has come out the biggest challenge. Which rack picker would be intensified, incentivized to pick up a pack which weighs less than a few grams. I think that is where the problem lies, and I don't think the solution is monomaterial, right? I think the solution is to move towards biodegradability, because no matter how efficiently you may collect, you will always have a situation wherein and I think in the presentation you also mentioned to the extent of collection that happens, I think it was just 10%. Right? So if you still go to have, let's say you become as efficient as the Europeans are, and you reach 40% of collection, it means that 60% is still going to lie there in the environment. How is that going to be addressed? I think that is the moot question that needs to be answered. Right? I think as far as the brand owners are concerned, right, and Amit in his presentation clearly mentioned that while we would be open to sustainable solutions, but then the first item we talked about was cost. I think if the brand owners, and more importantly, if the consumers are willing to pull it, I think the entire supply chain will be able to deliver to that. I think all the capability has been developed in the industry. We are all ready to deliver to whatever the market wants. It is just that the pull has to come from the final consumer who's willing to pay the price for the product and ensure that he himself is participating in making the overall supply chain or the environmental more sustainable. So that was what from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amit Shah. I think both of you, in fact, have shared some very interesting insights. Our audience will have a lot to ponder over. Next, I would like to invite Andrew Brown, Regional Sales and Marketing Director, Printing Material Products Division, DIC Asia Pacific, to speak about DIC's initiatives to support brands and converters in delivering sustainable packaging. Andrew has spent his entire career in the printing ink industry, and the vast majority of this is with DIC. Starting in the technical field, he later moved into commercial and operational roles to gain an appreciation of the total business prior to moving into general management. His passion for the packaging industry got him inducted into the Australian Flexo Technical Association Hall of Fame in 2012. Please, Andrew, take over.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you very much to PrintWeek for facilitating this and for the other guest speakers. Before I start to provide you with an overview of what DIC's initiatives are in this area, I'm not sure how many of the attendees, and I can see there's quite a lot of people attending this today. So I'm not sure how much you are familiar with DIC. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just give me 1 or 2 minutes to update you on DIC as a company. We were established as a printing company, Kawamura Inc., back in 1908. So we've been operational for 112 years now. And as the name Dai Nippon Ink and Chemicals suggests, we are 1, headquartered in Japan, and 2, we've diversified from just printing inks to other areas, including pigments, resins, adhesives, packaging films, liquid compounds, PPS, and so many other things. Approximately half of our global revenues are still derived from printing inks, so clearly that's a core business for us. And even some of the other areas that I mentioned, like pigments and resins, although they are in the non-ink division for us, we are obviously using some of those raw materials. And we think that that gives us a competitive advantage, and one of the reasons why we went into the vertical integration route. And just to wrap up on DIC, we now have more than 20,000 people working for DIC across 64 countries, 174 subsidiaries, and we have sales revenues of about $8 billion per year. So, and that makes us the largest printing ink company in the world. Of course, largest doesn't always mean best, so we have to work hard at that to make sure that, you know, we maintain that top of the pile. As we know, sustainability has been the quintessential terminology that's been used over the last few years, not just in our, but in many other industries as well. The drive has seen increased participation and investment, and that's evidenced by the most recent exhibitions and trade shows that we would have all attended, most of them online, of course, because of COVID. We believe that chemical companies in the past were expected to provide convenience and at a low cost. But DIC's philosophy today is that whilst we have to do that, it has to be balanced with environmental impact as well. And as 1 or 2 of the speakers have mentioned already, DIC recognized that we don't have the solutions for everything here. We have to collaborate. And we work with other like-minded individuals, companies, industries, associations, to get the maximum output and to get the best synergistic effect. A good example of this, I think, is the active participation in Uflex, Circular Economy for Flexible Packaging. It's a European organization, but the guidelines in that they outline, we can use in different parts of the world as well. And for those that aren't familiar with Uflex, I would highly encourage you to look at their website. There's lots of updates that they provide that are very helpful in guiding you through this. As we've already heard, there are different views about what is the best way to achieve this. Is it monopolymer or not? Moving on to what we can do, DIC, to support the brands and converters. I can advise you that we're working with many different global brands on short, medium, and long-term projects to find solutions to the packaging structures that are in place at the moment. And what can we do? What can we help them with to deliver more environmentally friendly and sustainable solutions going forward? Of course, we're always working with customers anyway, and we're always trying to help them reduce cost and look for efficiency gains, which also usually leads into sustainability gains as well. Many of the major projects that we're working on for sustainability drives are covered by NDA or confidentiality agreements. But even if they weren't, I wouldn't share specific details anyway, because that's not how we do business. But we can talk about, some of the general things, and then I can give you some specific examples where I can of what we've been able to do. I'm following 3 Amit presentations. I feel guilty my name is Andrew, but as the most recent Amit said, I mean, what definition of sustainability do you want to use? So I've tried to just make a couple of bullet points on 6 different areas that we look at. First one is reduction of VOCs. As we know, solvent emissions is a major contributor to greenhouse gas effect. So we have to be able to do everything we can to reduce that as much as possible. We have a number of solutions. One is moving to water-based. Water-based has been around for a long time, especially on porous substrates, but on flexible packaging, probably being used on the lower end of packaging. But so many developments have been done, and now we have water-based inks for a whole myriad of substrates and structures, and also for multiple lamination structures as well. So water-based is an option. Obviously, that takes it down to 0 VOC if we don't add any solvent in at the print stage. We've also developed a number of solvent-free adhesives. DIC is a major supplier of laminating adhesives worldwide. And there are usually water-based, solvent-based, and solvent-free adhesives. Solvent-free adhesives are 100% solids. Therefore, there are no solvent emissions into the atmosphere. There are many countries, the likes of Australia, obviously, that I'm very familiar with, Australia, New Zealand, and some parts of Europe that are dominated by solvent-free. In Asia, including India, then solvent-based is still the dominant application method. So if most of those adhesives are 70% solids, then we're emitting 30% by volume up into the atmosphere. For many, many applications, we can replace that with solvent-free adhesives. It's the largest growing area in laminating adhesives anyway, but I think that we've got many solutions for you to go. We've also got energy curable solutions, particularly including EB, electron beam. You do need different equipment to be able to do that, but that's available if you want. There are no photo initiators with EB, so migration is not an issue. So I think that that's another solution. So that's about reduction of VOCs. Recyclability. I have to say I do agree with Amit Banga about moving to monomaterial. And Cflex, I think, have the same view. Amit Shah is also right that there's not one solution. Biodegradable, I'm going to cover in a second as well. So it depends where you are, but I think bang for buck, recyclability is going to yield the biggest return. So the problem with monomaterial is the barrier properties that are required. A number of speakers have already mentioned about multi-polymer, so maybe PET to PE. How do we then go to OPP to OPP and achieve the same barrier level? Because we want the same barrier level, which will provide greater shelf life for the product inside, typically food packaging. So we've got a number of barrier coatings and barrier adhesives in our portfolio that can help to reduce those OTRs to give us the desired levels that we need. We've also got deseamable solutions that are applied during the printing process for labels for PET bottles. Again, I think Amit Banga mentioned that before. Very high recyclability rate in India, which is good. It's not necessarily everywhere else. And part of the problem is have an easy removal of labels on those PET bottles. So we also have a solution for that. Number 3 is carbon neutral. So the ability to be able to use renewable material or biomass material, as it's sometimes referred to. So these are using materials that are typically from plant or vegetable, etc., rather than using petrochemical derivatives. And DIC has invested a lot of time and research into this, and we've got a whole selection of biomass approved and certified materials that we can use. And these are maybe quite surprising for a number of people. They include materials for resins, even solvent, waxes, and additives. As an example, in Australia, we are using ethanol, which is produced from the sugar cane. So it's not produced from the oil process, which is a big advantage. And it's a large part of our formulations in Australia. Then moving on to biodegradable. So DIC has a number of ink series that are approved for this application by TUV in Austria. For those that are involved in biodegradable, they'll be familiar with this company. and they provide the global OK certification. So we've got a number of ink series that are approved for this. Obviously, you need to use biodegradable film as well. And there are also strict rules on pigment selection and also percentage coverage on the job. But again, DIC's got big experience in that, and we can help you. And the last two categories I've grouped together, lightweight and extended shelf life, which again, Amit, Shah just mentioned before as well. So DIC can enhance the barrier properties of packages with coatings or adhesives, as I mentioned before. And we can also simplify structures, maybe potentially going from triplex to duplex, and even duplex to duplex with better barrier resistance. And that's some of the things that we've achieved already. Other things that are in practice, we have PE replacement coatings. We have this for the likes of the fast food industry in particular. If you think about going into a major fast food chain now and you get a burger and a Coca-Cola, the drink comes in a paper cup, but inside the paper cup, it has polyethylene inside to ensure that there's no leakage. And also you can seal so you can form the cup. We have water-based coatings now available that will do the functionality of PE, and it is widely being used, and it's a growing part of our business. There are also on some of the cups, PE on the outside of the cup. So if we replace both of those with water-based coatings, it then renders the paper to be recyclable as well. And it's the same for fast food in terms of burger clamshells or even the outer wraps. Depending on which country you're in, they are typically PE coated paper or they're wax coated. Either of those are not recyclable. So with our water-based coatings, they are. They're also direct food contact, so there is no issue there. We've also moved frozen ice cream structures from film to paper recently. We've been using biomass, as I mentioned before, particularly in water-based, but even in solvent-based. So this is available using, naturally occurring materials. And in Japan, we've also seen a move for particular application to biomass material for solvent-based inks. We've also got a de-inking solution for the recycle station, so that's a help. And you may have seen the Kit Kat, Nestle Kit Kat, again from Japan, where the tertiary packaging, the outer packaging is done with paper now. Previously, it was with film. So again, that is obviously going to be recyclable. The inner contents are still in film, but that's going to be stage 2. DIC also has biomass polyethylene in its portfolio. We actually make our own film. So that also reduces CO2 emissions as well. We have energy curing coatings, which use up to 35% recyclable PET inside the coating. So again, that's a patented product for us. We've also introduced UV LED technology, so customers use lower energies as they go forward. And at a more local level, we have toluene-free inks. Toluene is still a very commonly used solvent in India, but there are alternatives to this which are widely available that are less harmful to people and to the environment. So in summary, I'd just like to make some comments about the Indian packaging market overall. The Indian packaging market, we estimate, is valued at about $50 billion in 2019. And it's expected to reach almost $260 billion by 2026. It's only 5 years from now. And that gives a compound growth rate of 27% per annum. Food and beverage and pharmaceutical are the fastest growing segments in the Indian packaging industry. And it's expected to further fuel the demand for plastic packaging. Massive investments are already being made in food processing, personal care, pharmaceuticals, and end user industries. And it's creating scope for expansion of the packaging market. These core business segments that I just mentioned are covered by many of global brands that are also committed to be using packaging that will be reused, recyclable, or compostable by 2025. And they've made those commitments through different industry associations or foundations like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Therefore, we see that a large increase in packaging requirement, as I mentioned before, coupled with a sustainability drive from the brand owners, along with consumer demand. So this is about the next generation, my kids and people that are younger than that. They want to be using sustainable packaging. They don't want to see landfills. They don't want to see marine pollution. So, you know, I think both of those gives us an excellent opportunity for any innovative companies to capitalize on this. India is key to DIC success in the AP region, and it's one of our core countries, particularly with the growth potential that I mentioned before. As recognition of this, we have a regional technical center based there with 40 scientists and technicians working for India and the region, and in some product ranges for the globe. Our technical leadership often works with regulators in India to help them identify suitable norms for more safe and sustainable packaging. We constantly engage with customers, not only to offer sustainable solutions, but also work with them and brand owners to reduce their operating costs and energy consumption. DIC itself continues to demonstrate lower carbon emissions and waste reduction, despite our growing business in India. And I have to say, this is replicated within the DIC group. DIC is recognized in environmental, social, and government investment indices, such as the FTSE4Good or the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and the latter we've been a member for 6 years running. So in closing, I'd just like to say we see a great future for India. We think it's a land of many opportunities, and where we're working to bring new age technology and technical services to build a more sustainable packaging ecosystem. We really believe that we are best placed to help you achieve your sustainability goals, whatever they are. And as we mentioned before, there are many and they are varied. And we are the only global ink company that's offering inks, adhesives, barrier coatings, adhesives, etc. I think our critical mass and our geographical reach can help you deliver it. DIC also has existing global experiences in transitioning businesses to sustainable models. So there's no point reinventing the wheel. Hopefully you can use us and use our learnings from previous to expedite your goals. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We've heard several viewpoints now, and I see the Q&A, the questions are flooding us from the audience as well. I have a few lined up. So let me quickly get to the questions to all the panelists here. Are you all ready to go?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right. So let me start with this specific question to Andrew, which is there from Sayantan Basak, who's asking how valid is this definition of plastic? Means material which contains as an essential ingredient as a high polymer such as polyethylene terephthalate, high density polyethylene, etc. So his question is, as given in the PWM Gazette notification, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, he's trying to understand how do you define plastic now? Are these the parameters? How does the international other countries outside India define them, Andrew?
It's a great question. I probably need my technical people to answer it specifically, but basically it's any polymer that we use. And in our industry, we're typically referring to polyethylene, polypropylene, polyester nylons. These are the majority of the plastics that we are involved with in our industry. And of course, we have PVDC coated films and acrylic coated, etc. But those are the ones. And within that portfolio, you know, C-Flex are also saying that 70% of those are PE and OPP derivatives as well. So those are the main areas that we are focusing on.
Okay, okay. There is a question for Amit Banga, which, while sustainability is a top priority these days, what are brands and MNCs looking at from the converters? Switching to single-family plastic laminates, how does your company add value to it?
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you for this question. I think the various brand owners are at different stages. They're at different stages as of now Some are into more advanced discussions, and some are still doing trials. But I would say not many of them have really reached a solution where they have converted to monopolymer packaging. We have been helping and supporting many of the brand owners, and we feel that the low-hanging fruits are in staples, in frozen category, in non-food segments like detergents, etc. So detergents, atta, for example, used to be all monopolymer till early, till 15 years back, only 15, 20 years back. Only in early 2003, maybe 2004, when Ashirwad and Pillsbury came in, the atta, otherwise before that, Annapurna atta, Shakti Bhog atta, etc. used to be all monopolymer. We had printed Surf, Rin, Wheel, Vim, all these powders, totally in monopolymer. We used to supply to Unilever in surface printed polyethylene. So I think there is these companies only need a little bit more push from the government, and they will be definitely adopting the solution because they have been doing it before also. And polyethylene as a material can run at very high speeds. We have been supplying polyethylene to companies which are running their packs at like 1,000 packs a minute. So it's a very versatile sealing material. Most of the packaging is done, polyester polyethylene is the most popular combination. There also polyethylene is the sealant layer. So we have been giving solutions based on polyethylene, and now to replace polyester, we have we take a thin polyethylene layer, maybe 20 micron, 15 micron, 25 micron, and we reverse print it and laminate it to a thicker layer of polyethylene depending on the application. So these solutions are already present, and they have been present. It's only that we moved to laminated packaging because it used to look good, Apart from that, polyester does give a good shelf life, but then the oxygen barrier coatings which DIC has and some of the other companies, they are a very good substitute for the polyester, and they can easily replace that and give you an OTR of 1. So the solutions are available, and many of the companies are trying out these solutions. They may need to modify the machines slightly to accommodate substitution of polyester, because polyester is a very forgiving material. It's a very stiff material, we all know. And even if your temperature controller is a bad quality one, your temperature is plus minus 10 degrees on your machine, you can play around and your PET poly packaging will still seal. So with polyethylene, you may need to go towards a slightly a better temperature controller, maybe a Teflon coated sealer, minor things. These are very minor things. You don't need to do any major changes. It's a few lakh rupees per machine, maybe 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees per machine, which is very elementary. And we support our the brand owners who are working with us, and we are working with a lot of them. We have helped a lot of them convert already, which is the reason we have 90% of our packaging in monomaterial. So we've just really recently expanded our capacity also, and we are ready to support others.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Banga. So Amit Shah, if you could answer this question, how do you think end user companies or brands, I think Shailesh Yadav wants to know, are going to educate consumers to bring out their pro-environmental attitude for using sustainable packaging and understand the difference between conventional and sustainable packaging? What measures would you recommend?
So if I just understood this query, it's that how do the brand owners communicate with the end users?
Yes, that is what he's trying to ask.
Okay, fair enough. So I think as the society evolves, right, and as the consumers' awareness increases, right, I think they are the ones who are going to drive people to move, or the brand owners to move towards a specific format of packaging material. Right? And I think if you hear what various panelists have spoken today, right, I think most of the large consumer packaged good companies, right, have already made their intentions clear as to what they would like to do 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. And we now have to see how does this actually translate into reality. I think that communication from the leadership of these organizations, I think, is adequate enough. And it has now to be demonstrated in real effective way on ground, actually. So my belief is as we go forward, I think the intent is very clearly laid out. We will gradually see the activities aligning themselves because we as a packaging company are prepared with any format that our customers ask us for, right? And as you would all be aware that one of the most modern MDO technologies is being introduced by Uflex in India. So that machine will be ready by end of March. Probably there won't be anything the country has seen in a long time. Yeah.
So just following up on that, to both Mr. Shah and Banga. So is there a sustainability gap between the big brands and the SMEs and MSME brands? With the bewildering rate of change in legislation, has the green knowledge gap reduced or quadrupled?
Well, I think my view on that is that because we engage with a very, very large cross section of customers, from very large brand owners to very, very small brands, I think the level of awareness exists across brand owners. And if you see Haldiram, a leading packaging format is in biodegradable for some time now, which they very proudly claim. But having said that, I think the real push for the change would come about once you see large brands migrating into what people like to classify or qualify as more sustainable structures.
Okay. What about you, Amit Banga?
I didn't really get the question. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So do you think the sustainability gap between the big brands and the SMEs and the MSME brand is widening? In the sense, the rate at which the legislation is changing, and has the green knowledge gap reduced, or you think it is increased further? Has it quadrupled?
Okay, so I'd like to present a little disruptive view.
Okay.
I feel most of the SME brand owners, all the brand owners are aware of the sustainable packaging and the need for sustainable packaging, and the fact that the government and the world is moving towards more sustainable packaging. I would say most of the large brand owners are conveniently creating, they are creating that gap internally, and they are turning a blind eye to something which is inevitable. And I think the SME sector is actually working more towards it and faster, because those businesses are taking faster decisions. So, for example, we provided a monopolymer packaging with oxygen barrier to a honey packaging company. It was and a wet wipes company. So now wet wipes has got alcohol in it. Wet wipes has got perfume in it. How can it's a challenge to do a monopolymer solution for a wet wipe. But SME sector is actually moving faster, because there the decision making is not as complicated, and the size is small, so they don't have to implement it in multiple plants or across the globe, or they have to they don't have to take approvals from their global headquarters or something. So I would say that while companies, the large brand owners, the multinational brand owners, have more knowledge, but they are preferring to wait for regulators to hammer it down, and only then they would change. So it's on the reverse, actually, is my experience.
Okay, got it.
For example, I would also like to say that, for example, some of the companies, they can move from a PET PE to a PE plus PE solution for detergents, right? It's a very easy thing. As I told you that we used to do, all the detergents used to be in monopolymer PE till late 90s. Now, they are still preferring to go to PP plus PE, and they say, okay, it's a polyolefin. But if you ask any recycler, you go ask all the top recyclers in the country, will they prefer a PE waste, or will they prefer a PP plus PE waste? I mean, they'll tell you PP plus PE is polyolefin, but it is not recyclable. PE, 100% PE is recyclable. So, and you can put it back in the circular economy as a, it can go back to the primary packaging. So, but they are still preferring to go step by step. Okay, first we'll go to PP plus PE, and then after the regulators say, or the sustainability goal is till 2025, it's away, or is 2030. So we will take our time to go towards that goal. Whereas they can easily switch to 100% PE thing right away.
Got it. On staying with PE, so there is a question from Amit Sharma. He wants to know, Andrew, when you are referring to PE replacement coatings, he says he assumes it must be certain kind of polymer providing barrier properties to paper or paperboard. Does it indicate the polymer in your coatings are biodegradable in nature? That's his question.
Okay, so obviously I'm not going to say what the polymer is that we are using, but needless to say that clearly it is based on a polymer, and it is direct food contact, as I mentioned, for the particular applications that I said, which was, for inside of cups or for fast food trays, etc. So it's heat sealable, it's grease resistant, it's direct food contact. In terms of being biodegradable, we've got a raft of barrier coatings or functional coatings, and some of them are biodegradable, but not all of them are. So we really need to understand what is the end game, what is the requirement of any particular customer or brand owner, and we can select the right one from there. A lot of people don't want it or need theirs to be biodegradable. It just needs to then enable it to be recyclable. So yeah, we have to judge it, on each one on its merits.
Okay, this is to both Mr. Banga specifically. You mentioned brands and their commitment to recycling and circular economy. But what we've seen is for brands, it is easier to donate rather than invest in a process or system. This is true even for major big power brands. How do we alter the situation on the ground, Mr. Banga?
How do we alter the situation on the ground? I mean, I didn't really understand the question. Can you repeat that?
Sure. Now, the general sense of feeling is that the brands, they find it easier to donate rather than invest in a process or system, for recycling or the circular economy part of it. So how do we make them invest in more processes and systems rather than the donation method that they are adopting?
So I think it's a very, very simple solution.
Okay.
And I think the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board has hit the hammer on the nail. Now, look at their notification, the ruling that says that you must use 20% recycled resin in the packaging. Now, just one ruling like this all over India, tell me what it will do. It will now push. So many of our customers are rushing to us now, and they are saying that this ruling has come. How will you use? We want to try out your 20% recycled resin, and we want to try out if it can be put in the packaging. So first of all, how can they try this 20% recycled resin unless the packaging is monopolymer? They can't do it. In a PET poly thing, it is impossible to use 20% recycled resin. So all the government has to do is to have just a one-liner rule that use 20% recycled resin in the packaging, and it will change the whole game for everybody. We will now rush to recyclers for recycled resin. The recyclers will suddenly become God. The recyclers will need recycled material. You will see collection and segregation agencies develop. Now, those collection and segregation agencies will look for monopolymer waste. The monopolymer waste can only come if the brand owner talks about monopolymer and he converts his packaging to monopolymer. So this cycle, within 5 years, you will see this cycle will completely develop, and there will be huge investment happening in the recycling infrastructure. And so we only need to break this impasse, this catch-22 situation. And just this one-liner from the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board can be replicated by all the state pollution control boards. The problem is that we don't have uniform laws in the country. And today, if you look at the multinational and the large brand owners, they are pan-India. So they cannot take their decisions only on the basis of one state's laws. So they are always confused. So we need leadership, the central leadership, to clarify the laws once and for all, sit down with everybody, that please don't have knee-jerk reactions. You cannot do overnight. So the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board said from January 21, you need to have this 20% recycled resin. Now 20% recycled resin from January 21 is impossible for the brand owners. You need to give them time. So something like this, if you give them time, if you give everybody time and it comes from the center, I think it is the way to go.
Okay, got it. There is a question, I think Amit Shah might be able to answer this. Do you think 100% flexible printing industry should be should switch from solvent-based ink to water-based inks? This is from Rakesh Bhatt.
So Rakesh, that's a choice, I think, which should be available with the brand owners and also the converters. If you ask me in terms of technology availability, yes, it is. We are quite a large user of water-based inks, right? Although, yes, there's a little bit of impact on energy consumption, etc. But yes, over the last couple of years, we have kind of got a right mix of that. Ultimately, it is dependent on the kind of performance you need from the product, right? And, if people actually put their heart into it, yes, they should be able to find adequate solutions as we have. Having said that, I think an important understanding that I would like to provide the audience which is here, that we are probably Uflex, our Jammu operations 1 and 2, we have 2 large facilities there, probably are the only packaging manufacturing locations which are completely toluene free, these 2 locations, right? So that's our commitment towards sustainability and towards furthering our engagement with leading brands. Now again, going back to your question, water-based or solvent-based, I think that's an individual company's perspective as to how they perceive both these products.
Okay. So let me ask this to all panelists. Anyone can take this up. Sundar Murthy wants to know, biodegradable materials are generally compostable under special conditions, and these conditions are not available in natural landfill or littering environment. In such cases, how would BDM go away on its own in landfills and littering?
I'd like to.
Okay. Yeah. Amit, you can take it, then I'll have my views on that. Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So biodegradability, there is the standard for biodegradability in India is ISO 14855, and the standard for compostability is 17088. Now, the biodegradable resin can be used as an additive to put inside the polyethylene to make it biodegradable. But people are afraid that it leaves microplastics behind, so they should not use they should go only for compostable resins. Now, compostable polymers are mostly starch-based, PLA, PBAT, and all that. And those are, till now, there is no established solution coming from that compostable polymers for food packaging and other packaging. So therefore, what we are waiting for is perfection. But as Horowitz rule, the Horowitz rule says that the wisdom is not in being perfect, but in knowing when to avoid perfection. So while oxo-biodegradable additive is not perfect, I feel that since a lot of packaging waste is going into landfills, it can definitely solve the landfill problem. And we should, till the time that the world can create a compostable solution for the industry, till that time at least we can promote the use of oxo-biodegradable additives to create biodegradable packaging solutions, which some of the countries have adopted. We have even supplied biodegradable packaging to the government of India, and they write on their packaging it's biodegradable. And we have the certification from Shriram Institute about its biodegradability, and it has this additive. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, but Amit, I think the subject they're talking about is oxo-biodegradable, right?
Yes, so oxo-biodegradable is a method, but it is still, so the institute will still call it biodegradable, and it satisfies the ISO standard of 14855.
Yeah, but I think the standard that we should refer to 17556, that's supposed to be the holy grail in terms of biodegradability.
I agree, but as I said, you know that.
And let me complete, Amit. Let me complete.
Yeah,
I think you had your share of your sharing your views. I think
sure.
so. I think the point I think that the entire audience must understand is that this product which classifies under 17556 is available from Uflex. The product has already been introduced into the market, right? So then that is as we define as a holy grail of biodegradability. Right. So I think oxo-biodegradable to my mind is an oxymoron, because ultimately you have large chain carbons which are still released to the environment, which is harmful and which should not actually be used. And the standard that people should refer to is 17556. So that's our viewpoint on that. The product is available. Users are most welcome. We are already connected with practically all the large brands in the country today. And please feel free to reach out to us. Right.
Excellent. I think that's good. That's also very good. But as I said, the wisdom is not in being perfect, but in knowing when to avoid perfection. So wherever we start, it's good, I feel. But we should start.
Fair enough.
I think there are large brands. You can check some of the Haldiram pouches. I think they very proudly claim on that this is recyclable and biodegradable under 17556, and that's what the industry should move towards. And the point that I was making when we were having when I was talking about the brand owners, is India ready to shift to sustainable packaging? I think the point was that, see, the products are available. There needs to be a coercive action from the brand owners to move to that. Number one. Secondly, no matter how efficient we or the amount of efficacy that we develop in terms of our collection streams, given that we are predominantly a low unit price pack market, I think collection is going to be it's never going to be the level that we even desire it to be, right? And therefore you must have a product which degrades on its in the condition that's there in the moment it comes into contact with soil and moisture. Yeah.
Got it. Amit Shah, there is one question on the note. If we had to launch a coding system to identify and classify all packaging out there to cover entire life cycle of packaging, maybe say from its constituents to its functions and ability to recycle, what should it be? Do you have a view on the coding system per se?
We already have a coding system in place, and I think, as Andrew also mentioned, the Uflex, I think, has come up with the new interpretation on that, and probably that has not yet got incorporated, implemented in India in terms of the recycling logos that we have. We are still in the old understanding of the nomenclature. But having said that, the point is that today we have, let's say, we started with a very basic thing, which was veg and non-veg logo, right? It took us, I think, close to 20 years to kind of finally figure out that the non-veg logo should be a triangle rather than a square as was the veg logo, right? So similarly, in terms of communicating on the packaging as to the extent of recyclability that does exist, I think whether we are able to educate the consumers adequately as to what it signifies, that will go into determining as to how the government actually then decides in terms of codification. So that's my take on it.
So you think it is practically feasible to implement it? Is it possible to do it?
See, it is
especially
possible
from the consumer's point of view.
Yeah, it is possible to do it. But the fact is that if you want to classify it as 1 or 2 or 7, how do you, what mechanism will you use to communicate to the consumer as to what it stands for? But yes, you could say, and this is, little thinking beyond, the context is that, everyone practically has a smartphone today, right? And if you have a QR code on that, which you should force brand managers to have, and the consumer scans on it, and then he gets an idea as to what the life cycle of the product is or the packaging is, right? Okay. I think there can be various ways and means of coming up with the solutions to how you are able to educate the consumer and thereby put a reverse pressure on the brands.
Got it. Thanks. So I think we've really run out of time here. I will ask for closing comments from all 3 panelists. I think Amit Saurkar had something emergency come up and he had to leave. So we have the 3 of you. I will start with Amit Banga to share his closing remarks. And I'll end with Andrew Brown because in the order of speakers.
Amit.
Okay, thanks, Sriram. Well, I think I've said everything that I really wanted to say, my views about sustainability and monopolymer packaging. I'm a very strong advocate of monopolymer packaging, and we have put our money where our mouth is by installing a recycling plant for polyethylene. And I think monopolymer is the way to go for the industry. And most of the packaging, 98%, 99% of the packaging can be converted to monopolymer very easily. And I would request the brand owners to change before they have to.
Okay.
So that's it.
Amit Shah, what are your thoughts?
Brand owners, don't worry, we are here. Whatever are your wishes, we shall deliver to that, right? So you want mono, you want multi, whatever it is, we have options available to recycle everything, right? So we are biodegradable. And you are aware, Uflex has been at the forefront of demonstrating recycling technologies, may it be in the facility in Noida or the event that we had on I think it was on the 27th of December in Bangalore, and with the facility coming in Varanasi. I think the entire industry needs to get together to understand, not understand, to collaborate, to see how you can recycle multi-layer plastic waste. And as far as we are concerned, all plastic packaging is recyclable.
Spoke like a true marketing professional there, Amit. Final closing remarks from Andrew now.
Yeah, thanks. And it's very difficult to cram everything into this short time, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think the comments from everybody has been really great, and it's good to have difference of opinions as well, right? Robust discussion is how we develop and how we go forward. Amit Shah made a comment on water-based inks before. So, I think that there would be one of the companies on flexible packaging that is used to using water-based inks regularly. For people that are just moving into it for the first time, it can be more problematic, especially in gravure where the film weights are higher and the drying is more difficult. So, it's possible, but, best as everyone says, collaborate, get as much information as you can and go forward. I think the biggest obstacle facing India is going to be about collection. I did a presentation about 18 months ago in Australia on sustainability, and different parts of the world have different success rates, and particularly in Scandinavian countries, we have about 40% recyclable. The other 60 is at least thermal. But you go to, say, Greece, for instance, and it's 20% recyclable and 80% landfill.
Okay.
The biggest issue is for Asia is the collection of the material. So we need to really address that. And the other point I wanted to make is marine pollution. The bulk of it by far comes from Asia. So we really need to do something to be able to address that situation.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So on top, to add to all the points that our panelists have made, I think the past 75 minutes has been a clarion call for action. That is what my primary takeaway is. 3 disruptive initiatives that we've been talking about and which we can look as we exit this session is we definitely need an action plan in India. For example, there is Hatch, which is for the industry as a whole to work on reducing single-use plastics such as tape, shrink wrap, and bubble wrap. Then there is Conservatory, which educates clients, partners, and end users, suppliers, basically everyone in the chain, how best to use plastic. And finally, there is Spectrum Plastics with clear guidelines of what choices customers have got when using plastic. I think how you go about using it and highlighting choices and benefits of using it is what, and so you got the right material for your application is what the future is, I believe. Thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope it was a useful session to all of you. We have several more questions that has flooded our Q&A and chat boxes. We will be taking them up and answering them offline as much as possible. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good evening.
We are on LinkedIn. I'm Amit Banga from SB Packaging. Thank you everybody. Thank you especially to PrintWeek and DIC for helping organize this. Thank you, and thank you. Nice meeting you with you, Amit Shah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Lovely
Have a
connecting.
good evening. Bye-bye.